Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video. And before we get started, I just wanted to mention that you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And also, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe for more Jets content. So what we're going to be doing today, since we're almost reaching the end of the year and the end of the decade, I'm going to be going through and doing my top blank of the decade. Today we're doing top 5 quarterbacks, and it's not the greatest list. I mean, there's a lot of people who could have been on the list. I mean, some honorable or maybe dishonorable mentions: Greg McElroy, Bryce Petty. Those are some guys that I was skimming through their stats and trying to come up with 5 guys who I think would make the most sense looking at the quarterback position of the New York Jets for the last decade or so. So we'll start from number 5 and work our way up until number 1. And coming in at number 5 is Geno Smith. He was drafted in the second round of the 2013 NFL Draft, and thanks to Rex Ryan being a complete dumbass, ended up having to start the 2013 season because the coach got the starting quarterback, Mark Sanchez, hurt in the the Giants game. So the second to last preseason game of the season. For some reason, he put his starting quarterback out in like the third or fourth quarter with all the backups, and the O-line was terrible, and he broke his collarbone, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, he was out for the year, and Geno Smith had to start. His best year was probably his rookie year. In 2013, the Jets went 8-8. He threw for over 3,000 yards. He had 12 passing touchdowns, 21 interceptions. And if I had to pick out his best game, it was definitely the game against Atlanta. He was 16 of 20 for 199 yards and 3 passing touchdowns, one of which, maybe multiple, I don't remember, to Jeff Cumberland, Jets tight end legend. His greatest impact, or his most memorable moment with the New York Jets, was getting knocked out by Ike Enemkpali before the 2015 season, sparking one of the more improbable Jets 10-6 seasons. More on that later on this list, but Geno Smith comes in at number 5, mostly because there's nobody else you could put at number 5. Coming in at number 4 on the list is Josh McCown. The New York Jets signed him before the 2017 season in order to start the tank. Yes, they were looking to lose games and they were looking to develop their younger players. That's why they didn't go with either Bryce Petty or Christian Hackenberg, because the Jets, despite maybe it would have worked out better because they probably would have only won 2 games if they were lucky with one of those 2 guys as starting quarterbacks. Nonetheless, they wouldn't have been able to evaluate anything else on the team. So they signed Josh McCown, who came over from Cleveland, and he actually put up a really solid year. In 13 games, he threw for just over 2,900 yards, 18 touchdowns, 9 interceptions for a 94.5 rating. His best game probably came in 2017 against the Kansas City Chiefs, where he threw for 331 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 109.8 quarterback rating. 2018, he came back as the Jets' backup, ended up starting 3 games when Sam Darnold got hurt, and he was really bad. He regressed pretty badly in 2018. Was pretty solid in 2017 for the Jets, definitely overachieved, and his biggest impact was taking the Jets out of a top 3 pick and moving them to the 6th overall pick, causing the Jets to have to trade up for Sam Darnold. Number 3 on this list is Mark Sanchez. Drafted in the first round in 2009, Mark Sanchez led the New York Jets to 2 AFC Championship games, most of which were helped by a phenomenal defense. But specifically in 2010, that team was all around better and probably the all around best New York Jets team I've ever seen. They went 11-5. He statistically threw for 3,291 yards, 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and 16 starts. His best game as a New York Jet had to be the playoff game against New England. On the road, 194 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, 127.3 rating. To me, his biggest thing with the New York Jets was his playoff performances. Yes, during the regular season, hand up, admit that the defense carried that team. But in the playoffs, he played very well, and his playoff career record with the Jets was 4-2. He was better than he's given credit for. He is not a great quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, but everyone, when you think Mark Sanchez, immediately goes to the butt fumble play, and he is so much more than that, because in 09 and 10, he was a semi-competent game manager. Again, he wasn't great. I'm not sitting here telling you he was great. Even in 2011, he started out pretty strong. He was, again, looking like an okay quarterback. Regressed hard at the end of 2011. Really regressed in 2012. Got hurt at the start of 2013. His Jets career over. And really, the Jets did him no favors. He was starting to get some chemistry with Braylon Edwards, Jericho Cotchery, Dustin Keller, and all 3 of those guys were gone by either 2011 or the 2012 season. Realistically, bringing in Derek Mason, Plexico Burress, That helped no one. Coming in at number 2 is Ryan Fitzpatrick, specifically for the 2015 season. One of the best quarterback Jets teams I've ever seen, which is sad that it was quarterbacked by Ryan Fitzpatrick, but he threw for over 3,900 yards, 31 touchdown passes, setting the Jets franchise record, 15 interceptions, unfortunately 3 big ones against the Buffalo Bills, and he had the Jets at a 10-6 record. A really solid year all around for Ryan Fitzpatrick that year. His best game came in 2015 against the New York Giants, where he threw for 390 yards, 2 touchdowns, and had a 107.9 rating. Again, he was really solid, got put into position because of Geno Smith's getting knocked out and getting his jaw broken. But Ryan Fitzpatrick came in, did his job, exceeded expectations, had the Jets on a 5-game win streak. They went from 5-5 to 10-5, and they had a position to win an in scenario in Buffalo. And a lot of people blame him for that loss. He threw 3 interceptions. He wasn't all that great. But to me, I've always put that loss on Todd Bowles for a litany of reasons. 1, the team just wasn't ready to play. 2, the special teams was awful, which goes to the head coach. And 3, on a windy, cold January day in Buffalo, they gave the ball to Chris Ivory 6 times. 6 carries for Chris Ivory. Bilal Powell was inactive. That game made 0 sense from the get-go, and Ryan Fitzpatrick suffered in the second half. Yes, the red zone interception was really bad. Also, if Kembrell Thompson or Tompkins, whatever, doesn't matter at this point. He should have caught a game-winning touchdown pass. He dropped it. Just disaster scenario in Week 17. And granted, Fitzpatrick probably would have been number 1 on this list if he didn't completely fall off the face of the earth in 2016. He was terrible in 2016. A 6 interception game against Kansas City, and I mean, I just can't put him at number 1 because of that very reason. But overall, 2015 was a lot of fun. Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, Ryan Fitzpatrick, the good old days of this decade. And coming in at number 1, who else but Sam Darnold? I know it's a small sample size, smaller than anyone else on this list for the most part, but he is the most talented quarterback that the Jets have had this decade, and it's not even really remotely close. In 2018, he played 13 games, threw for 2,865 yards, 17 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, but how he played in the final 4 games of the season after coming back from injury was really huge. And then this year, again, he's kind of hit his stride, and to me, he has shown so much more raw talent than any other quarterback on this list. His best game came last year in 2018 against the Green Bay Packers, a game where he threw for 341 yards, 3 touchdowns, and had a 128.9 rating. He's the only quarterback on this list who consistently might be a stretch, who has shown flashes and made plays where you say, okay, there's maybe a handful of quarterbacks who can make that throw or make that play, whether it's him escaping the pocket and making a throw on the run, fitting a throw into a tight window. Again, this is more about the raw talent than actual on-field performance, because realistically, there's no one really else you can put at number 1. You're going to put Fitzpatrick? No. You're going to put Mark Sanchez? No. McCown? No. Smith? Absolutely not. So to me, it has to be Sam Darnold by default, even though he still has a lot to prove. Still by far the best at the quarterback position for the New York Jets this decade. He should theoretically smash every single Jets passing record in the coming years. If he plays all 16 games next year, he should break a lot of single season records next year. And if he plays quarterback for this team for the next 7, 10, hopefully 15 years, which I think he has a really good chance to do, he should smash every single Jets quarterback record, and that's why, to me, he's the number 1 guy on this list. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. You can get at me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. Please don't forget to subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next time.